Today we have with us Shelly Fuller, Lead Facility Information Specialist and Archibus System Administrator for the Federal Aviation Administration Mike Monroney Aeronautical Center. And she's going to be speaking with us about how Archibus was customized to implement a complex back-to-work schedule. She's joined by Steve Pogoloff and Jane Bullock of Archibus Solution Center's Research Triangle, who helped implement these updates. All right, let's go ahead and get started. Shelly, first, if you could just tell us a little bit about the background. What challenges were you trying to solve for?
So we had a challenge to try to figure out what to do with the COVID situation and primarily what back to work was going to look like. However, we have limited personnel that have access to the CAD drawings and also limited personnel who have access to be able to edit the room data. So with more people being able to do the work, if the solution was based on the employee data, then we thought that would be a better fit for us. We also didn't really want to change room types because we had several existing reports which relied on those room types. And if we switched them, then that would break those reports. And it also was going to be a burden to switch them back at some point when we hopefully go back to normal. So we started looking for ways that we could base this solution on employee information. Also, the majority of our staff was already assigned to a specific workplace. So they all have offices and workstations that they were going to be returning to. So we're not in an environment where we have a bunch of hoteling space and people come and go and sit in different locations. They all have their own assigned space, and that's where the plan was for them to return to once they return to work. So we needed a method to be able to look at these return to work schedules, and it was going to be based on staggered schedules. So employees coming in coming into the office full time versus those that were teleworking full time, or those that maybe were coming in on Monday, Wednesday, Friday versus Tuesday, Thursday. But it was also going to be time based because what that looks like in June is going to be totally different than what it looks like in July or August as we start bringing more and more people back into the workplace. We wanted to highlight those floor plans to be able to review the areas that may have some distancing concerns. So we realize that we have several people area that are all coming in on Mondays, then we would be able to see that using the highlight floor plans and determine if we needed to change those schedules or make some employee moves. We really wanted to limit the move actions that we were going to have to do to make this work. We wanted to use their existing workspaces. We also needed to have history to be able to know who was in the office on any given date. So even in the past, so if we have a positive COVID test come up, we needed to be able to look back a week ago to see who may have been in that same location when that other employee was in that area.
Sounds like you guys really put a lot of thought into how this is all going to work in keeping your employees safe and healthy. So when you were planning all of this, what applications or processes did you implement to address your challenges?
So for this, we definitely leveraged the flexibility of Archibus and being able to meet this new business need, because obviously there wasn't anything just straight out of the box to meet this. We're all looking at new ways that we can do work. And so the flexibility of Archibus helped us with that. We were able to use existing tables and fields within Archibus. We didn't have to make any schema changes to the database. We just used those existing fields, but then we did some customized views to be able to look at that information in a different way. So we borrowed from the EHS module, specifically the work categories. We were able to use that to drive the data for this solution. We also borrowed some information from space management and building operations, such as like where the employees are assigned to those offices and workstations. We wanted to be able to highlight drawings like you do in space management. We borrowed a view from building operations to locate or the location of work request. And then we were able to even use some custom views using a SQL query to just roll all this information up into a nice summary by building. Okay, so we're going to get in and look at a couple of examples. So here we used the define work categories straight out of the EH&S background data menu. We set up a hierarchy for specifically for COVID to be able to identify the different types of work schedules that we might be using. We are able to identify an employee as 100% telework or as essential, meaning that they're in the office all the time, or different combinations where we can have, say they come in every Monday and every Wednesday, then we would have the CVD 1M and the CVD 3W work category assigned to them, or several different options for their for the pay period. So we're on a 2-week pay period rotation. So in this example, we have an employee that's coming in on Monday, Wednesday, Friday of the first week of the pay period, and then Tuesday, Thursday of the second week. So we were able to then assign that information to employees. We had an existing view called the employee list, which we have a group of organizational space POCs that manage all of the employee information for their organization. So they know about all the moves and the changes within their organization. So they use this view on a regular basis to reassign people to a different location or update their phone numbers. You can also see that we had another panel in here for issued keys. So we were using Archibus for key management as well. So we added in just a new section to that existing view to track the work categories for that employee, so we could see all of the information. So here I have my example pulled up that I was telework for a period of time, and then on June 1st, switched to the Tuesday, Thursday, Monday, Wednesday, Friday, and then hypothetically coming back into the office full time in August. All of that's hypothetical information, and we can update that as needed to plan out in the future. And as we change those dates, then later you'll see where we can see that on the floor plan drawings and see that information highlight based on those specific start and end dates. But we knew that we would have some issues with people that didn't want to assign this information one by one. So assigning a work category to one employee is no big deal with that previous view, but assigning it to 100 employees is much different. So we had another custom view that we already had, so we just kind of modified it a little bit to use with these work categories. So this gave us an option to assign one or more work categories to one or more selected employees with an as of date. So that as of date stamps on the date, on the start date for the work category assignment on the employee. And there's a lot of back end stuff going on here as well, to where we go ahead and set the date in. So if we had another COVID category, maybe they were on the COVID telework solution in March, and it was just open-ended. When they make this assignment as of July, it would then put a date in stamp on that telework one for June 30th, and then update the new one starting in July. So then we're able to search that information using just kind of some standard views to be able to search this. So here we're looking to see what kind of which employees we have on those pay period alternating schedules on June 2nd, and we can get the list and dump that to Excel, of course, like any standard Archibus report does. But this was useful for management to be able to pull reports and see who's on what schedule currently, and then we can also make adjustments. As blue links, we can click on those employee names and further edit that information or add a new work category if we needed to. So once we have all that data in, we can use views within Archibus to highlight that information on a floor plan. So this was kind of the flexibility of Archibus. So here we borrowed that location of work request view that's out of the building operations module, and we were able to make some adjustments to it to use with work categories. ASCRT was actually simultaneously working on another solution for us that was using similar technology. So we were able to use what they had done for us and learn from it and be able to develop this view pretty quickly. And so this is highlighting all of the locations where we have any employees on that telework 100% of the time schedule as of June 2nd, but we can change that date or change the work category or specify a certain building or division and further refine these floor plans down to just those locations and dump that information to Excel as well. This is an example of just the SQL summary view that we did. So this is using a query for the back end of that, but we're able to present that directly within Archibus to provide some key reporting. as the data gets filled in, this is just sample data, but as it gets filled in, this is going to be important in the future as we're doing reporting, because this is actually one of our requirements within the agency, is to provide reporting to show how many employees we currently have teleworking and how many employees we have coming into the office. So again, here you can see we can refine that down by a location or as of a specific date. If we change this date from today's date to what did it look like in March, or what's it going to look like in August, it will update those numbers based on the schedules that are defined in the system. This was another view that we had existing. That's our highlight and label view. This is a really flexible view that we use almost daily. It's much like the Space Console, where you can select the different highlight options and the different label options. So just pulling in a couple of new data sources to do those highlights, we can now see the floor plan highlighted by the work categories that are assigned to the employees as of today, and see any locations where we might have a concern. So over here, kind of on the right, we see 4 green areas, or all of those people are on the Monday, Wednesday, Friday, Tuesday, Thursday schedule. So they're going to be in that location at the same time. So we can make decisions of, do we need to alternate their schedule? Or I can see I've got a couple of the vacant rooms around. So do we need to move them and separate them out a little bit more? Within that same view, we can also highlight who's in the office today, and there's an option for tomorrow as well. So it will highlight any of the rooms in yellow. So if today is Monday and it's the first day of the pay period, then any of those Monday, Wednesday, Friday schedules will highlight, as well as the essential employees and anyone who's assigned to the Monday set day schedule. So that ended up being a pretty neat fix for us, and so far we've received some pretty positive feedback from everyone that's seen it.
I'd just like to give plaudits to Shelly. You can see how they are very self-sufficient in taking charge of, using their imagination and creativity and technical ability to customize Archibus, get the result they want, respond to their organization. And we just back them up. But it's really relatively unique in the strength of their implementation team.
Thank you, Steve.
Thank you so much for sharing those examples with us. Besides the positive feedback that you've received already, are there any other results or outcomes that you would like to share from implementing these applications and processes?
Sure. We just recently implemented this, so we released it last week. We first did our demo on Wednesday, and on Thursday, I believe, we received guidance from the Department of Transportation for return to work. And one of the requirements in there was reporting. And that reporting was that we had to identify at any location how many employees were teleworking and how many employees were in the office. So we already had the answer to that with Archibus. We actually had already developed it and it was ready to go. So management was pretty excited about that. And like I mentioned earlier, our business partner ASCRT had helped us with customizations in the past and currently, which we were able to use and learn from to make this work for us. And of course, the flexibility of Archibus was a good result. Right after presenting it, we received recognition from our executive management for using cost-effective solutions. And we've also received that positive feedback from many users. There's a lot of people that are presenting this to their management, and of course, it just released last week, so we'll see where it goes from here. We've seen some other possible uses for this. One of the things specifically for COVID was a little bit of trend analysis. So if we start seeing that we're bringing back larger amounts of people into the office, but yet if the positive cases in that location start increasing, then we can see if that's consistent with the amount of employees that are coming back. And was that a direct result of that, or was that just the trend within the state or the location where we're at? Hopefully that won't be a trend at all, but that we do have some back-end data now to be able to do that analysis. We are looking at using some Archibus metrics in the future to further report on this. We also found the facility managers are going to be able to review those unoccupied areas for possible HVAC adjustments and possibly save some energy dollars. So if we have a building that everybody in there is teleworking 100% of the time, they can now see that on a floor plan and recognize that and quickly decide to make that decision of maybe we don't need to be cooling this building at the same temperature or as often. So if it's always vacant on Fridays, then we can make those adjustments. We also found we already had existing unique employee situations that we were trying to figure out how we could record these employees in Archibus. So within the FAA, you have employees that might be detailed from one organization to another. That means they're kind of temporarily working in a different position, or they're on a temporary promotion, or even those that routinely telework. So even before COVID, we had employees who would telework every Monday, Wednesday, Friday, but how did we know their office is vacant today and maybe it's available to be reassigned to someone on an alternate work schedule like Tuesday, Thursday? So it's going to help us with some space management analysis in the future. And then also union affiliation. So employees within the FAA are affiliated with different unions, and they all have different rules about what you have to do before you can move that employee or the amount of space that they have to be assigned. So we're going to use the same work category solution for those items as well.
What you've done with Archibus and the fact that you had the ability to leverage something that you already have at FAA has certainly made the entire implementation process a lot better for you too. So thank you for showing us that and taking that on.
Thank you.
One more thing I wanted to clarify. We are located in Oklahoma City at the Mike Monroney Aeronautical Center. My team manages the Archibus system not only for the Aeronautical Center, but also for FAA headquarters and the 9 regional office locations located across the United States. We do have over 8 million square feet of space and about 17,000 employees that are currently tracked in Archibus, and this solution will work for all of those.
Well, I have to agree with Steve and Jane when they say that they are very impressed by the effort and the results that you've seen so far. So I want to thank you again so much for speaking with us, Shelly, and thank you again to Steve and Jane for joining us as well.